All right, good morning, everybody. This is the Fantasy Sports Boss. It is Sunday morning. I believe it's August 27th, and figured while I was out taking a walk this morning, wanted to jump on and just give you some thoughts on the preseason slate from yesterday and, any other ideas that spring to mind here on this beautiful Sunday morning here in New York. Overall, the real theme is that we're down to only one preseason game left. And all in all, I know, there are a couple of lower tier players that got injured yesterday, but nobody really of significance in terms of, guys that were universally drafted and guys that would put a major hurting on their rosters because of their absence. So, like I said, we just got the one more game today and then we're good. And then it's all systems go. Hopefully nobody gets injured. And by the way, I'll be getting off this main road in a couple of seconds. You'll be able to hear me a little bit better. But, the big deal now is that we're through the preseason. Anybody who had early drafts, it worked out. Like I said, other than Jerry Jeudy, who suffered a hamstring injury in practice, it wasn't even a preseason game. We haven't had any of those, disastrous, Julian Edelman, torn ACL, Jordy Nelson, non-contact injury. We didn't have any of that, so that was good. And now we look ahead, toward week one and what should be an excellent opening week. Giants and Dallas, Jets, Buffalo Bills, Monday night. And we could start with the Jets because Aaron Rodgers looked great in the two series that he played. And anybody that owns Garrett Wilson, which I do own him in one of my two leagues, had to be very encouraged and very excited by what they saw. Not only did he catch the touchdown pass that Rodgers threw, but he also caught a couple of passes that preceded that. And, it was very obvious from the very beginning that, when Rodgers first arrived with New York with the Jets, the knee-jerk reaction was that Garrett Wilson would be the Devontae Adams of this offense. And by the looks of it, that's pretty much what's going to happen here. So, the Jets wide receiver core, he's got old friends Allen Lazard, he's got, Randall Cobb. But other than that, Tyler Conklin is, just an okay guy. You throw him the ball, got to throw it right to him. He'll move the chains every now and again at tight end. But there's really nobody that would scare a defense. And Rodgers is not stupid. He's going to always want to get the ball to his best guys. And that's Garrett Wilson. Wilson looked great. And, the biggest thing is that Rodgers came through the game unscathed, played two series. There's one little scary moment when he was being chased down by Shane Zimenez, the Giants pass rushing outside linebacker, but was knocked to the ground, got up. He seemed like he was okay. So no issues there. But obviously the bigger story is that Rodgers is okay. And now we go excellent week one matchup, Jets and Bills. And if you're the Jets, you got to win this game. You got to figure out a way to win this game. You can't get blown out. If you lose a close game, it's okay. But if you get blown out, then that's a really rough way to start the season. The Jets are just not used to prosperity as it is. But from a fantasy football perspective, Garrett Wilson is going to be immense. And I said it from the very moment that Aaron Rodgers ended up with the Jets, that this guy, Garrett Wilson, is going to have a special season. No doubt about it. It's going to be insane, the numbers, I think, as long as Rodgers stays healthy. Now, as far as some of the other games last night, we had an Albert O sighting. He caught 7 passes, over 100 yards, and a touchdown for Denver. And you know what? You can look at the final preseason game a number of ways in terms of usage. Like here with the Giants, they had a crowded wide receiver room. Jamison Crowder played almost the whole game. And, Brian Dable sitting the starters, sitting Daniel Jones, Darren Waller, all of them. It looks like that he's going to be probably not make the team. He's probably going to get cut. So, that he looks like he's going to be on the outs. So that's, but then, and then if you look at Albert O, 7 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown, that's probably maybe a good sign for him because, Denver is lacking so many key receivers with, the injury to Judy, season-ending injury in Tim Patrick, all the KJ Hamler. So is Albert O somebody that maybe now we want to monitor? Obviously you don't draft him after the way he burned us last year, but do we want to monitor Albert O early on in the season? Maybe. Greg Dulcich is there. Hasn't really caught on. It seems like Greg Dulcich is not a Sean Payton kind of guy. I don't know. He brought in Trotman. Hasn't really been featuring Dulcich so far this preseason. Maybe it's Albert O. Who knows? Marvin Mims, like I said, who I drafted. Yeah, stop sign. Sorry, guys. I hate when people just blow through stop signs when you're walking through a neighborhood. Pet peeve of mine. Anyway, stopping at a stop sign is the most elemental thing that you could do while you're a driver. So that would have been funny if he would have stopped the car and tried to yell at me. Right? What was he going to say, right? You blew through a stop sign, dude. You got called out on it. Don't be a dick. But anyway, I digress. See, this is live, guys. Anything could happen, right? So I lost my train of thought. So anyway, as far as the preseason is concerned, we got to read into each situation on its own merit. Marvin Mims, definitely like him now as a late round guy. Rashee Rice, I think he caught 3 passes yesterday for Kansas City. Had a couple of drops, and that's the one knock on Rashee Rice is he dropped more passes you'd like to see in college. But I'm intrigued by him long term. I think you draft Rashee Rice in the last 2 rounds, 3 rounds, right before you draft your kicker in your defense, and you hold on to him and see what happens. Richie James didn't play yesterday for Kansas City, neither did Sky Moore. So, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, those 3 guys seem to be the top 3. Rashee Rice probably number 4. You have Travis Kelce there. That's been one of the things we've all been trying to figure out this summer with Kansas City is which receiver are we going to invest in? I was Richie James from the beginning. And the fact that he didn't play in this game, maybe he will have that role that I thought he would have. I know Sky Moore is getting the majority of the attention. That's the obvious play. 2nd round pick last year. Kelce and Mahomes have been glowing about him all off season, even through training camp. So that might be the obvious call there, but keep an eye on Richie James. Keep an eye deeper leagues for Rashee Rice. Dallas Cowboys, Will Grier had a good game. And again, just like I echoed yesterday, some of these coaches just sat everybody, like the Giants. Some of them played everybody, like the Jets. So it really just came down to the comfort level each coach had with their team, going into the season, whether they were willing to expose guys, at this very late juncture with the opener, the Thursday opener, a week and a half away. So, that's to each his own, really, when it comes to that. What was some of the other things? There really wasn't that many. Salvin Ahmed, like I said, he went down injured. Myles Gaskin played quite a bit. Raheem Mostert got some carries. So maybe Jeff Wilson, I still think it's 50-50 with him and Mostert. The Jonathan Taylor thing is still hovering over everybody. Now, the latest thing I heard that I read, and this stuff goes, you gotta take everything with a grain of salt, stuff that you read, is that they don't, meaning the Colts don't want to trade him in the AFC. They want to see him out of the conference altogether. So, does that put the Eagles in the front, in the front of the line, at the front of the line for Taylor? And like I said, that's if the Eagles get Jonathan Taylor, you might as well just, hand them the crown now. It's just insane how talented this team is. And I can't stand the Eagles. I'm sorry, my Eagles fans, subscribers who are Eagles fans. I really apologize for saying that, but I just can't help it because I'm a Giants fan and this is what we do. You hate my team, I hate your team. We both hate Dallas, so we're good there, right? But, man, that team is going to be scary if they get Jonathan Taylor. And then they would cut Rashad Penny or trade him to Indianapolis. And he would be relevant in Indianapolis, talking about Rashad Penny. Somebody has to be the starter. Kenyon Drake got cut this morning. I don't know if you saw that. That just happened. So Kenyon Drake has been cut loose. And you knew that wasn't a solution. So Kenyon Drake is gone. They're really going to... Evan Hull, seriously? Deion Jackson's there, Zach Moss. None of these guys. Moss is still out with a broken arm. None of these guys should be on a fantasy team. If they trade Jonathan Taylor, you have to think Kareem Hunt will be signed within the hour. You have to believe that. Right? And like I said, I have him in both of my leagues, Kareem Hunt. He's just sitting on my bench to see how this plays out. Because, Hunt can catch the football. In a PPR league, he still has value. He doesn't have the speed he used to have earlier in his career, which is amazing to me too, because Hunt missed a lot of time. He's been in a timeshare the last few years. He was suspended, had half a season knocked out because of that disgusting domestic incident he was involved in. So you'd think he'd have more tread on the tires than he does, but maybe it's frustration too. Maybe his head just wasn't in it. So I'm willing, he's 27, doesn't have the mileage of other 27-year-old backs like a Christian McCaffrey. So I'm willing to wait it out till Tuesday at least to see what happens. And really week 1. You just know somebody's going down week 1. It happens every season. Somebody's going down week 1. All right? Elijah Mitchell went down week 1 last season. Right? And that eventually spurred the 49ers on to get Christian McCaffrey. So I might hold on to Kareem Hunt for maybe through week 1. I have Leonard Fournette on that in one of my leagues as well. I'm probably going to cut him loose because I just don't see it. He looked awful last year. There's no doubt about it. He can help on third down as a receiver. But that's the extent of what I would do there. Travis Etienne was solid yesterday. Tank Bigsby's been great this whole summer. I still think Tank Bigsby needs to be owned universally. Him, Jalen Warren, Zach Charbonnet. You even want to talk about Deuce Vaughn. All of these guys are prime backups, handcuffs. All of them. Tyler Algier. So, Tyler Algier, he was available in one of my leagues. I picked him up because, Bijan Robinson, who knows if he stays healthy. Like the running back position, any one of these guys could go down at a moment's notice. Any one of them. That is the nature of the beast of the position. Guys are falling on them. Their knees are getting hit. They're getting blasted running through the hole at full speed. So that's why fantasy football has changed fundamentally when it comes to the draft. In leagues with 3 starting wideouts plus a flex, that's 4 wideouts that you could be starting. That's why, again, I'm all about the receivers. All right? So, my 2 leagues, I went Justin Jefferson with the first pick in the one league, and then followed it up with Garrett Wilson. The league I drafted the other day, Amon-Ra St. Brown, followed it up with A.J. Brown. I went receiver all 4 of my first 4 picks. And in my 110 team league, I also have Jalen Waddle and Tyler Lockett. My receivers are loaded. Absolutely loaded. Now, you use that approach, you're going to have to look for value at running back. And this year, like I've said a million times, there is more value at running back this season than I ever remember. With your David Montgomerys, your Rashad Whites, your Miles Sanders, your James Connors. All of these guys available around 5, 6, 7, 8. Not to mention handcuffs, because you could get a handcuff back that will contribute consistently and be starting worthy from the rest of the season. And We've seen many, many cases of such a player. Receiver, not so much. Think about how many times have you picked up a receiver in the middle of the season, he contributed to you consistently the rest of the way? Very, very few instances, if any. I mean, there were some, and there's always some, but very few. So, but running back, you get a guy that goes down, forget about it. I mean, you could get a guy like Zach Carbonet who comes in there, Tank Bigsby who could come in there for ETN and hold the job as a starter the rest of the season. And really carry you fantasy-wise. Whereas a receiver off the waiver wire, not as much. So, again, and you take the injury factor as well. Running backs get hurt exponentially at a higher clip than a wide receiver does. All right, I'm going to turn around here. Sorry about the barking dog. We've gotten a little bit of everything on this morning stream. Guys blowing stop signs, speeders, barking dogs, pretty much everything. What's next? Yeah, so, Trevor Lawrence played well yesterday for the Jaguars. Still puzzled over Dallas bringing in Trey Lance. Unless they're going to use him as a big-bodied back, I don't understand that move. I don't get it. So, does Tony Pollard, I know they don't want to use him as the bell cow back. Does that necessitate them using Trey Lance in that manner? I don't know. As a third quarterback, they can use him in such a way. So, I don't know. I got to get away from this goddamn dog. Holy cow. And that's another thing that pisses me off. When there's a barking dog outside and you don't bring it in, so all your neighbors have to listen to that. Come on, do the right thing. I'm cranky this morning, I think. I don't know. Little things are pissing me off today. But I'm stoked that the season is quickly approaching. Week and a half. That's going to be a great opening game. Kansas City, Detroit. I got Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm ready to go there. Looking to get off to a nice start in that matchup. Both of my fantasy matchups week one are probably going to be in flux because in one league I have Josh Allen. They play Monday. The other league I have Garrett Wilson. They play Monday. So probably going to have to wait on that. As far as the schedule, so this is my last week off before I go back to teaching next week. So Labor Day is Monday, back to teaching on Tuesday. So, and I coach football after school. So the middle of the day videos will be pre-recorded. Any breaking news, I'd have to wait until I get out of school, heading to practice. And if you were with me last year, you noticed that I did a lot of my injury updates sitting in my car before practice. So, that might be the case this year as well. But as far as the rest of the week, live streams, no doubt. Thursday, Fantasy Cast, first half of the games. Friday afternoon, probably around 4 or 5 o'clock. And then Sunday morning, 11:30 Eastern time, the injury updates. And then Sunday night, the wrap-up. Usually, that's a long one. That could go up to 2 hours. Going through all the games, getting all your opinions, finding out how everybody did, all the injuries, all that stuff. And I find it very cathartic. The Sunday night stream. We let it out. If we suffered a frustrating loss, we let it out. And man, last year I had some rough ones. I won one league, I made the wild card round, I lost in the other. But I had 2 weeks last year where I lost by less than a point. 2 games where I lost by less than a point. I mean, there is nothing more frustrating than that. You'd rather lose by 10 than less than a point. There's a lot of frustration with fantasy football. I mean, listen. Whoa, jeez, bee. Sorry. Again, wild morning. Bees all over the place. There's a lot of frustration with the game. No doubt. It drives us all crazy. Especially when you have that situation where you have a really good team, but you're just getting really bad matchups. You're on the wrong side of the weekly high scorer. That's frustrating. You score all these points, you feel good about the team, and then, your opponent hangs, the highest scoring total of the week. And then you look and you see that for the season, you have like all these points scored against you and stuff. You know what I mean? That's frustrating. But part of the game. And that's why I know this sleeper thing has gotten pretty popular. I don't know what, I've heard of it. I don't know. I can't play on an app. I just can't do it. I need it on a CBS, a Yahoo, something I could do on the desktop. I do like the all play though. I do like the all play. So the all play, you play your opponent and you play the league. So you get two games each week. You could beat your opponent, and then if you're in the top 6 scoring wise that week, you get the win, the bottom 6 get the loss. So you could be 2-0, you could be 1-1, you could be 0-2. Right? Now I don't have that set up in both of my leagues. What we are doing in both of my leagues this year, and I'm the commissioner in both, thankless job. Anybody who's a commissioner knows it's a thankless job, collecting money and all that other bullshit. High scoring team each week wins money, all right? So you have and you do away with the third place prize. You increase the first place prize, have a second place, runner up, get rid of the third, the consolation prize. And then each week of the regular season, you have the highest scoring team that week win some money, like, $10, $15, whatever. Nothing too extravagant. So again, you really kind of are playing the entire league. You have your opponent, and then you got to say, okay, you beat your opponent, but now you got to see if you outscored everybody else so you can get the prize. And I think that's a good way to do it. I know that there's, top 5 teams that make the playoffs. 6 team is the highest scoring team left out of the teams that were below the cut line. You could do that. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Another thing I suggest is randomize the schedule after week 11. So you're going to play all the other 11 teams in your league, right? And then weeks 12, 13, 14, the last 3 weeks of the regular season, you randomize the schedule. Because it's unbalanced if you leave it as is. Now, is there a small chance you play a team 3 times? Yes. But not a math guy, but I think it's not very probable that would happen. But still, it's randomized, right? Because, again, that's another frustration when you have to play the best team in the league twice and somebody you're battling it out for a playoff spot or the first seed, whatever, has to play that same team once. And it's not fair, right? It's unequal. But if you randomize the schedule, nobody can complain. And another thing you could do, which is fun, and make this a very small pot, like maybe $10, whatever. The team that has the most points scored against them gets like $10. Because again, you can't predict that, So it's like throwing a bone to that really, really unlucky person in your league. I mean, I was in a league last year and luckily I made the playoffs in both, but I had the second most points scored against me. And the guy who had the least amount of points had like 200 points less scored against him than I did. It was ridiculous. Like, you just talk about almost improbable. But you get stuff like that in fantasy football. It happens. All right? And that's what makes it frustrating. Listen, we've all had anybody who's played this game has had those moments where you throw the remote across the room because you're just so exasperated. You're going against Cooper Kupp. He scores with 10 seconds left. Or like my personal situation that I talked about in the past playoff round, Steelers getting blown out. They left the starters in. Deontay Johnson scores with like 10 seconds to go. Complete garbage time, BS touchdown. And it wound up costing me a week, the season rather. So you get stuff like that. It's just, oh man. See, at least with fantasy baseball, I don't really play that anymore. It's 6 months. The luck quotient is greatly diminished. Whoa. See, now I'm almost getting attacked by dogs this morning. So we've had people blowing lights. We've had attack dogs. We've had a little bit of everything. Bees. Man, it's been kind of a stressful walk this morning. All right, what else? Maybe I shouldn't say that. I thought they were going to get through the gate too. I thought we were going to see my me getting mauled live in front of all you guys. Anyway, fantasy baseball. I don't play that anymore. And that's how I got into fantasy sports, believe it or not, was fantasy baseball. And if you remember, both fantasy baseball and fantasy football, it originated with 10-team leagues. That was the original format. And then it moved to 12. I guess, I don't know, to get maybe cut down on the amount of bandwidth needed, the amount of leagues needed, who knows. But with fantasy baseball, over 6 months, the luck quotient is lessened. 162 games, right? In football, 17 games can be a very, very high luck quotient, which leads to those, bouts of frustration. But yeah, so like I said, it'll be really interesting to see what happens once these games kick off. I'm happy with both of my teams. I only have one doubled-up player. That's Darren Waller. Got my team spread out. My players spread out. The bye week spread out. I'm one of those people that looks at the bye week when I draft. So I'm feeling pretty good. You just hope it's a battle of survival for your team, really. You just hope that those big injuries don't hit, especially right out of the gate. You want to live and die with that team you drafted. You want to have an opportunity to see if you really did draft well. But the players got to stay on the field for that to happen. That's it. So, anyway. All right, well, this is fun. A little walk around stream this morning. A little bit of everything, like I said. Cars blowing lights, getting attacked by bees and dogs and all this other stuff. So, yeah, this was fun. Speeding cars. As far as the rest of the day, probably just going to take it easy today. Tomorrow will definitely be a podcast. Probably a live stream, too. I'm feeling a live stream tomorrow. So, keep an eye on that. Hit that subscribe button, guys. If you haven't done it already, I don't know what you're waiting for. Lots of good stuff coming from the channel this year. Have some ideas. Have a fellow fantasy guru by the name of Rob Woods, who I'm going to bring in for maybe like a weekly appearance. So him and I can debate. I always like the debate aspect. I think it's good to hear somebody else's opinion. Maybe contrast my thoughts, and I'm down for that always. I'm not, I'm always willing to listen to anybody else's opinion. I won't shut it down, I'm fair that way. And if I mess up, I'd be the first to admit it. So I'm going to probably have him in. Haven't decided, and now there's cops going by all over the place. What is going on today? And the funny thing is, I live in an upscale town. Like, there's ambulance, I don't know what the hell's going on today. People are nuts. Sunday morning, everybody should just chill out. But anyway, so I'm gonna have him in to do it, to join me on a stream, maybe once a week, and then like I said, have a debate where you could ask us both questions, and then we could go from there. All right. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna end it now. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and we will chat soon.